Goblin. The whole album plays out like a twisted therapy session where Tyler talks to a voice named Dr. TC, who, by the end, turns out to be just part of his own mind. It's not just a gimmick either. It drives the whole story and makes the album feel like a descent into psychological chaos. That's part of what makes it so weird. It's not about real events. It's about Tyler fighting with different versions of himself. Then there's the production. Tyler handled almost every beat himself, and instead of following radio-friendly formulas, he went full horror movie soundtrack. It's jagged, it's grim, and it's not trying to make you comfortable. Songs go on forever with no hooks, and the mood never lets up. Then there's the lyrics. They're packed with graphic violence and taboo stuff, not as parody or critique, just raw and aggressive. Critics were all over the place. Some called it powerful and honest. Others said it was exhausting and hard to get through. Visually, the album cover and the Yonkers video sealed the deal with creepy, unsettling imagery. It wasn't made to please anybody, but that's why it stuck. People either ran from it or dove straight into the mess. Yeezus. Released in June of 2013, this was Ye's 6th solo album, and it made a hard left turn away from what fans expected. He ditched the soul samples and went for something way more jarring. Just 15 days before it dropped, Rick Rubin came in and helped tear it down into something lean and noisy. Even the packaging was stripped to the bone. No artwork, just a clear case and a piece of red tape. The sound? Not friendly. The album blends industrial, punk, acid house, electro, and even drill. It's loud, it's harsh, and sometimes just screeches and glitches like an overheated machine. Ye's vocals are warped and messed with so much they barely sound human at times. More like a broken transmission than rapping. Tracks like I Am a God come with yelling and weird beats that feel like they're falling apart. The samples clash too. Gospel choirs, next to Hungarian rock, next to Nina Simone. The promo strategy ditched radio completely, using giant building projections in cities across the world. Even the recording process was fast, dirty, and wild. Critics called it bold and genre smashing, while fans were either confused or completely into it. Yeezus didn't just challenge expectations, it smashed them. Food. The title itself is an anagram of MF Doom's name, which already sets the tone. Nothing about this album is straightforward. Doom built it around food, but not just as a goofy gimmick. He turned ordinary snacks into metaphors for social commentary, hip-hop critiques, and villain-style wordplay. Every track nods to something edible, from beef wrap to con queso, stacking layers of meaning under all the clever puns. He even crammed in over 60 food references, making up over a quarter of the album's content. Production-wise, most beats are Doom's own, raw and dusty, with guest touches from Madlib, Count Basti, and others. Then there's the strange audio collage of cartoon clips, especially from vintage Spider-Man episodes. These samples add to the surreal feel, like the whole thing's happening during some trippy picnic in a villain's lair. Visually, the album cover shows Doom eating cereal in a cluttered, eerie setting, and originally even had a blunt edited out. Critics loved it for its offbeat charm. It's part of a bigger puzzle too, dropped during a creative stretch when Doom was releasing music under multiple aliases. Food wasn't just weird for weird's sake, it was smart, satirical, and baked into his whole mad scientist persona. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm gonna be posting every day, thanks. Anyways, Whole Lotta Red. Released on December 25th, 2020, this album caught people off guard. It marked a massive shift in Carti's sound, from melodic and breezy to chaotic and dark. The album pulls in punk, trap, and electronic music, wrapped in this goth vampire persona that Carti leaned all the way into. Inverted crosses on merch, live performances that felt like horror films, and an edgy visual style helped sell that weird vibe. The vocals are another big piece. He switches between his baby voice and a new, throaty, raspy delivery that makes tracks feel more like possessed chants than songs. The structure's wild too. 24 tracks, over an hour long, and barely any traditional song format. Some tracks are just straight shouting or ad-libs riding aggressive beats. Producers like Pierre Bourne, Filthy, and Art Dealer gave it that distorted, high-energy sound. There's even a box sample thrown into a trap beat on Vamp Anthem. Critics were split. Some praised its raw energy and creativity. Others said it was bloated and uneven. But over time, it helped spark the rage, rap wave, inspiring artists like Yape and Ken Carson. Even Rolling Stone later called it the best rap album of 2021, The Big Day. This was Chance's debut studio album, and it revolved almost entirely around his wedding. Released in July of 2019, it was packed with 22 tracks and ran over 77 minutes. That's a long time to hear someone talk about how happy they are to be married. The whole album stuck tightly to that marriage theme, and while the positive tone was meant to be uplifting, it ended up feeling overbearing, Musically, it bounced between gospel rap, pop melodies, and trap drums, creating a warm, family-friendly sound that clashed with expectations. The feature list was wild. John Legend, Nicki Minaj, James Taylor, Randy Newman, even Death Cab for Cutie. The genre leaps gave the whole thing a weird, scattered energy. Fans were quick to call it corny, with memes flooding in, mocking the My Wife vibe. Even critics were baffled. Rolling Stone later named it one of the most disappointing albums ever. The cover with that crystal-encrusted disc just drove the point home. It was literally a wedding ring. This album shifted Chance's image from independent icon to something way more commercial and overly sentimental. It didn't just miss the mark, it changed how people saw him altogether. How Do You Sleep at Night? This was Teezo Touchdown's debut studio album, released in September of 2023, and it wastes no time throwing genre rules out the window. He labeled the sound rock and boom, which basically means R&B vocals, crashing headfirst into punk guitars, hip-hop drums, and whatever else he felt like that day. At just under 40 minutes, it moves fast, but it's packed with sharp stylistic turns. One moment it's R&B ballad territory, the next it's screaming into pop-punk distortion. His vocals stretch all over the place, sometimes shaky and raw, sometimes surprisingly clean. He's not chasing perfection, just emotion. Critics were split. Some loved the chaos and creativity, calling it a messy but exciting mix of styles. Others thought it was too unfocused, with lyrics that felt undercooked. Guest spots from Janelle Monáe and Fouché gave it extra dimension, while producers like Justin Rayson and Benny X brought edge and polish. Standouts like Neighborhood and Mood Swings show Teezo playing with tone and structure in ways that feel genuinely strange but intentional. It's a weird album, yeah, but it's weird with a plan. Love it or hate it, it doesn't sound like anything else out right now. Testing, Rocky's third studio album, released in May of 2018, marked a sharp pivot into experimental territory. He didn't try to refine what worked before, he wanted to break it. Rocky made it clear he was testing ideas, mixing genres, flipping song structures, and pulling collaborators from different worlds. Tracks like Purity with Frank Ocean and Fuck Sleep with FKA Twigs are just two examples of how unpredictable this thing gets. The production ranges from psychedelic to industrial to ambient, and somehow still feels like his. Rocky described it as an evolution, not a follow-up, and it shows. The rollout even included a bizarre live art piece called Lab Rat, where he performed inside a giant glass box like some designer experiment gone rogue. Critics were mixed. Some praised the ambition and forward-thinking energy, while others found it messy or unfocused. It didn't hit number 1, but it still debuted at number 4 and went gold. More importantly, it was the first album he released without Yams, his longtime friend and creative partner. That absence is felt. It's Rocky trying to navigate without his usual guide, and the result is weird, uneven, and interesting in a way that doesn't beg for approval. Atrocity Exhibition. Released in September of 2016, this was Danny Brown's third studio album, and easily his most experimental. The title wasn't just catchy, it referenced a Joy Division song and a J.G. Ballard novel, signaling that this thing was going to be weird on purpose. The production is wild, mostly handled by Paul White, with extra work from The Alchemist and Evian Christ. The beats are glitchy, noisy, post-punk chaos. It's industrial and jagged, with unpredictable rhythms that feel like a panic attack in surround sound. Vocally, Danny's delivery is sharp, high-pitched, and frenetic. He sounds like he's unraveling in real time. Lyrically, it's raw. He dives into addiction, paranoia, depression, and fame, treating the whole album like a spiraling breakdown. Tracks like Downward Spiral set that tone instantly and never let up. Critics loved the risk-taking. Metacritic gave it an 85, and it ended up on tons of year-end best-of lists. It's not background music, it's jarring, cinematic, and intentionally uncomfortable, and that's the point. Danny structured it to feel like you're descending into madness with him. From the distorted vocals to the aggressive production, it's one of the most unnerving and fearless rap albums of the decade. Young Band. This isn't just a single project, it's a 72-track compilation of 5 self-titled EPs released between 2017 and 2018. Think of it more like an audio scrapbook of a rapper coming into his sound. He added 4 new tracks: Fleeky, ETA, Waterslide, and Water Team, but most of it pulls straight from his early catalog. What makes it weird isn't just the size, though that's definitely part of it. Most self-titled projects don't stretch across 5 volumes with that many songs. It feels more like a digital archive than an album. The compilation gives you a full picture of Young Band's evolution, from the emo trap crooning of Lonely to the tougher, more polished energy of his later volumes. There's a long guest list too: Juice WRLD, Gunna, Lil Skies, Smoke Perp, and more, showing just how connected he was in the SoundCloud era. The sound shifts from lo-fi angst to trap flexing, with moments that feel introspective and others that are pure hype. It's messy, inconsistent, and definitely not for casual listening, but it captures a moment in time. If nothing else, it's a weird flex, a mixtape monument that only makes sense in the era that created it. The Booty Tape. Released in August of 2017, this was Ugly God's debut commercial mixtape, and it barely hit 23 minutes. That alone makes it strange, but it's what he did with those minutes that really earns it the weird label. From the jump, it's clear Ugly God wasn't trying to impress anybody. He leaned all the way into crude humor, self-disses, and DIY energy. One track is literally called Fuck Ugly God, a full song roasting himself. Water became a breakout hit thanks to its goofy aquatic metaphors and lo-fi bounce, helping him ride the SoundCloud wave straight into the mainstream. The track list is full of intentionally juvenile titles like I'm a Nasty Hoe and Stop Smoking, Black and Mild. Production was mostly handled by Ugly God himself, with some help from producers like Danny Wolf and HM Surf. Critics were divided. Some liked the unapologetic goofiness, others called it disposable, but it didn't try to be deep. It was all jokes, internet slang, and chaotic charm. Even when he teamed up with Wiz Khalifa on No Lies, the attempt at going serious fell flat. That's the paradox. It worked best when it didn't try to. The Booty Tape isn't polished, but it's one of a kind. Let's start here. Released in January of 2023, this album flipped everything people thought they knew about Lil Yachty. Known for his bright, trap-heavy bubblegum sound, he completely abandoned that lane and dove straight into psychedelic rock, funk, and soul. It was a total genre pivot. He even said he wanted to make a black version of Dark Side of the Moon. The sound is surreal, packed with synths, long guitar solos, and auto-tune used more like an instrument than a vocal effect. Tracks like The Black Seminole stretch near 7 minutes and feel like spacey odysseys instead of rap songs. Thematically, it's heavy. He touches on everything from drug use and heartbreak to racism and suicidal thoughts. He worked with a wide list of producers and collaborators across different cities, intentionally stepping outside Atlanta. The album Art is just as strange, an AI-generated image of warped business people that looks like a boardroom nightmare. Promotion included psychedelic skits and a live show with a full band and trippy visuals. Critics mostly praised it, and it even debuted at number 9 on the Billboard 200 while topping rock charts. This wasn't a pivot, it was a total reinvention. And yet, it's weird in a way that's actually bold. Mista Thug Isolation. Released in February of 2012, this is Lil Ugly Mane's debut album, and it sounds like it crawled out of a haunted basement in Memphis. Everything about it is designed to feel wrong in the best way. He produced the whole thing under the name Sean Kemp, layering distorted bass, creepy synths, and overcompressed samples into a lo-fi sludge that hits like horrorcore run through a VHS filter. His voice, filtered into a monotone murmur or pitch, shifted into something nearly robotic. The lyrics swing between violence, nihilism, grotesque humor, and total absurdity. One moment, he's talking about blowing up his enemies. The next, it's I just want to get my dick sucked and multiply them zeros. The album draws heavily from old Memphis rap, especially DJ Screw and early 3-6 Mafia, but it isn't just a throwback, it's a warped reinvention. Tracks like Cup Full of Beetlejuice and Bitch I'm Lugubrious are packed with unsettling textures and weirdly elegant chaos. It's a cult classic now, praised by the underground, boosted by Odd Future, and name-checked by Denzel Curry and others. Mista Thug Isolation isn't just weird, it's fully committed to being bizarre, murky, and hypnotic. A surreal dive into underground rap's darkest corners. I'm Gay. When Lil B announced the title at Coachella in 2011, the internet basically combusted. He later added, I'm happy in parentheses, but the reaction was already nuclear. He even said he got death threats. The title alone made the album feel like a statement, even before anyone hit play. Then there's the cover, a rework of Marvin Gaye's I Want You, which mixes nostalgia with bold subversion. Musically, this wasn't typical. Lil B Gone were the meme bars and random freestyle. He worked with Clams Casino, Ninth Wonder, and more to build a moody, ambient, and almost dreamlike sound. It dropped digitally in late June of that year, and he gave it away for free the next day on Twitter. The lyrics turned inward. Tracks like I Hate Myself and I Seen That Light dealt with self-worth, depression, hope, and acceptance. It was raw, and oddly beautiful. Critics were caught off guard. Pitchfork praised it as one of his most coherent projects. Slant called it radically intimate. Even Drowned in Sound noted how serious and sincere it felt. It's weird because Lil B, a rapper known for absurdity, made an album that actually asked to be taken seriously. And the weirdest part? It worked. Dr. Octagonecologyst. Released in May of 1996, this debut from Kool Keith's alter ego, Dr. Octagon, is one of the weirdest rap albums to ever exist, by design. Dr. Octagon isn't just a character, he's an alien, time-traveling, incompetent surgeon with a fixation on gynecology and a tendency to narrate absurd body horror over eerie beats. Kool Keith handled the vocals, Dan the Automator crafted the psychedelic, horror-laced production, and DJ Qbert added wild turntable work that included wah-wah pedal scratches. The result? A surreal sci-fi medical nightmare. The tracks have titles like Elective Surgery and General Hospital, and the lyrics are filled with bizarre imagery. Leeches, skin grafts, green skin nurses. While the beats sound like you're being wheeled through a haunted ER in the future. The whole thing is wrapped in creepy, lo-fi artwork from Brian Pushhead Schroeder. Initially released on indie labels, it went on to become a cult classic and was reissued by DreamWorks with bonus material. Critics loved it. Pitchfork ranked it among the best albums of the decade, and it's featured in 1001 albums you must hear before you die. This album wasn't just ahead of its time, it built a world so strange, no one's even tried to replicate it. Whack World. Released in 2018, this debut from Tierra Whack tossed every rule about album structure out the window. 15 tracks, all exactly 1 minute long. That's it. The whole thing wraps up in under 15 minutes, but somehow feels packed with color, emotion, and personality. It's not just music either. It dropped as a full visual album with a surreal short film for every single track. Each one is a rapid-fire burst of genre-switching madness. 1 minute it's dreamy R&B, the next it's country, bossa nova, or MIDI-driven experimental pop. Even Fuck Off sounds cheerful, while wishing someone breaks out in a rash. Whack wrote it like a sketchbook, each piece its own world. That oddball format actually came from her discomfort with her voice, so she worked in short, powerful bursts instead of full-length songs. The result was wild, emotional, and endlessly creative. Critics loved it. Pitchfork called it a dream nightmare funhouse. The New Yorker said it defined the year. The album cover's claw machine sculpture fits perfectly with the Carnival of Chaos aesthetic. Whack World doesn't try to make sense in a traditional way, and that's exactly why it works. It's weird, bold, and somehow incredibly cohesive in just 1 minute at a time. The Money Store. This album is weird in a way that doesn't feel forced. It's just built different. Right from the start, the sound is messy, distorted, and completely off the rails. It's experimental hip-hop with a backbone of industrial chaos and punk intensity, and it doesn't let up for 1 second. There's static, crunching drums, and this raw electricity that feels like it's been ripped straight from a blown-out speaker. MC Ride's vocals don't follow the rules. He's not really rapping, he's shouting, snarling, spitting out words like he's in the middle of a storm. The lines are aggressive and barely tethered to a beat. It's all emotion, no polish. You can feel the urgency in every breath. The production team leaned hard into noise, layering sounds from random recordings, internet clips, and whatever else they could find. They called it future primitivism, like dragging the future through a trash compactor. And even though this dropped through a major label, nothing about it feels clean or commercial. The cover art alone lets you know this isn't trying to be pretty. Critics either loved it or had no clue what to do with it, but it stuck. It's loud, chaotic, and completely unforgettable. The Unseen. This one's weird before you even hit play. Madlib cooked up Quasimoto as a helium-voiced alter ego by slowing his own vocals and speeding them back up, so it sounds like a cartoon character got lost in a jazz record store. That voice trades bars with Madlib's normal one, so half the time, it feels like a debate between a laid-back philosopher and an unhinged gremlin. The production? A psychedelic soup of old jazz, funk, prog, and soul samples. It's layered thick and messy on purpose. Madlib reportedly made the whole album in 1 week while going through a month-long mushroom binge. You can hear it. It's chaotic, dreamlike, and borderline nonsensical in spots. And the lyrics? They bounce from absurd to existential in seconds. Paint sniffing, flying, cartoon violence. It's all in there, but buried under the jokes and weirdness is a pretty dark emotional layer. Paranoia, isolation, obsession. It's not all laughs. The mystery behind Quasimoto made people think he was real, and Stone's Throw leaned into it. Even the title, The Unseen, plays into the idea of hiding in plain sight. Critics couldn't stop talking about it. Weird, funny, haunting. This album hit underground hip-hop like a fever dream and never really left. Temporary forever. This album goes full speed weird, without slowing down to explain itself. Busdriver's flow is like a math problem with caffeine. It's fast, dense, and somehow still smooth. His breathless delivery turns verses into verbal gymnastics, packed with oddball punchlines, wild rhyme schemes, and that signature, theatrical energy. The sounds, a whole different world. There's jazz rap, experimental loops, sudden classical samples, and even free jazz influence, especially on tracks like that one with the box sample. Nothing feels safe or predictable. Production's handled by a rotating cast, but it all stays warped and cohesive. You'll catch scratches from D-Styles, thick textures from Daddy Kev, and Busdriver himself pulling strings behind the curtain. The whole thing stretches across 18 tracks and doesn't bother with traditional hooks or formulas. It's long, winding, and sometimes dizzying, but that's part of the fun. The lyrics get surreal fast, painted with literary quirks, satire, and bursts of absurdity. Critics called it a hidden gem. Vibe listed it as a lost classic, while underground heads link it to Project Blowed and the whole low-end theory movement. Temporary Forever didn't chase mainstream love. It carved its own lane and crashed through it at full speed. It's weird, fearless, and totally unforgettable. Veteran JPEGMAFIA didn't just make this album, he built it himself from scratch. Every sound, every beat, every glitchy sample came from his own hands. It's rough around the edges on purpose, diving headfirst into digital chaos. He recorded over 100 tracks while living in Baltimore, then moved to Los Angeles and carved out 19 for the final cut. That kind of shift shows up in the music. Raw East Coast grit clashing with hazy West Coast static. The title nods to his military past and his time grinding in the rap underground. It's not a flex, it's a statement. And the album doesn't hold back. The production's wild, layered with noise, static, and abrupt cuts. Tracks melt into each other, sometimes crash into silence or explode without warning. It's loud, political, and full of coded jabs. The structure's stripped down. No flashy features, just one interlude and a focus on delivering JPEGMAFIA's voice exactly how he wants it. Critics called it one of the most creative works of its time. Fans loved how every song hit differently, but still felt connected. Then came the director's cut. More tracks, more chaos, more of JPEGMAFIA's vision. Veteran didn't just challenge rap norms, it tore them up and rebuilt them from zero, 6 feet deep. This album didn't just play with horror, it built a haunted house and handed out the blueprints. Gravediggaz came in swinging with alter egos straight out of a nightmare. The Undertaker, the RZA Rector, the Gatekeeper, and the Grim Reaper weren't just stage names. They were full-on personas, delivering bars like campfire ghost stories soaked in satire. It dropped in 1994 and rewired East Coast boom bap into something colder and weirder. Prince Paul led the production, flipping soulful samples into chilling loops. Tracks sound like crime scenes. Grooves twisted into something sickly, all topped with eerie textures and sharp punchlines. The lyrics? Morbid, funny, and way over the top. 1 minute, it's self-aware commentary on gangster rap. The next, it's a murder confession in verse form. There's crucifixion metaphors, fake hotline numbers, and horror movie courtroom drama. It's like rap theater with a pitch-black sense of humor. Critics gave it love, and horrorcore was basically born right there. Rolling Stone, NME, Fangoria, they all listed it among the best. And fans still spin it like a Halloween ritual. It's gory, smart, bizarre, and totally unlike anything before or after. 6 feet deep didn't just get weird, it made weird into an art form. From Filthy Tongue of Gods and Griot, this album sounds like someone dragged industrial machinery through a poetry slam. Dalek took almost 4 years to finish it, layering samples, live instruments, turntables, and distortion into something that barely resembles anything on a traditional rap record. The sound's dense, chaotic, and grimy by design. One track runs over 12 minutes, slowly building with the tonal drones and ambient noise until it basically suffocates you. Melody shows up occasionally, but it's more of a warning than a hook. The whole record leans into this mood of tension, dark, philosophical, and full of unease. The themes are heavy. The title nods to griots, West African storyteller, and Dalek channels that into a lyrical barrage about race, memory, and identity. The writing feels like a lecture, screamed through a broken amplifier. Critics didn't ignore it. Pitchfork gave it love, international magazines ranked it high, and fans still talk about the live shows like War Stories. It even found a weird crossover audience in metal circles, which tells you how intense it is. This isn't casual listening. From Filthy Tongue of Gods and Griots, broke genre walls and made something slow-burning, abrasive, and unforgettable. It's rap, but it's also a deep dive into controlled chaos. History Will Absolve Me. This one didn't just drop, it landed like a literary brick. Billy Woods had planned it as a last gasp, Before quitting music, recording it in a kitchen, instead it became the turning point that relaunched everything. The whole thing plays like a storm of ideas, wrapped in harsh beats and intellectual fury. It's not a diary, it's a hall of mirrors. Woods channels, dictators, war criminals, survivors, and skeptics. His verses aren't confessions, they're confrontations. The writing cuts through themes like colonialism, trauma, and state violence, but without falling into a lecture. It's sharp, sardonic, and written like a thesis with a side of Molotov cocktails. The beats stay gritty and layered. Willie Green and others cooked up 18 tracks that feel both sprawling and claustrophobic. The vibe's consistently heavy, but not in a dull way. It shifts, builds, and occasionally explodes. Critics called it one of the most intense releases of the year, even next to giants like RAP Music and Death Grips. Fans still point to specific tracks that haunt them years later. History, Will Absolve Me, didn't just reboot Billy Woods' career, it turned him into a force. It's dense, fearless, and loaded with enough weight to flatten casual listeners. Weird? Definitely. Essential? Even more so. Phantom of the Rapper. This one's theatrical, moody, and seriously unhinged. Bushwick Bill leaned all the way into horrorcore energy while weaving in southern hip-hop, G-funk, and gangsta rap. An odd mix that somehow stays unpredictable across the whole project. It dropped in 1995, recorded in Houston, and featured a patchwork of producers, which explains the uneven but dense vibe. Right from the intro, there's a fictional interview framing the album with masks, temples, and metaphorical talk. Then it all spirals into topics like violence, suicide, drugs, and paranoia, some of it through his Chucky persona, who's unstable, menacing, and occasionally pitiful. The emotional swing is wild. You get raw aggression one track, then a strange political detour or a moment of spiritual desperation. Songs like Only God Knows bring in soul samples from Isaac Hayes, while What Cha Gonna Do samples a Robin Trower guitar riff. Even critics didn't know what to make of it. They praised the production, especially tracks like Ex-Criminal, but pointed out that Bushwick's verses didn't always rise to the same level. Still, the album charted and stuck around because it felt personal and totally unfiltered. Phantom of the Rapper isn't just weird, it's deeply unsettled and intentionally hard to pin down. The album, Latyrx, didn't just bend rules, they tangled them up and threw them in the corner. This duo, Lyrics Born and Latif, the truth speaker, built something experimental in 1997 that still feels futuristic. The first track throws you off instantly. They rap different verses at the same time, one in each stereo channel. It sounds like a technical nightmare, but somehow it works. Their flows bounce back and forth like controlled chaos. Latif's punchy and fast, while Lyrics Born leans into a melodic, gravel tone style. The contrast gives every track a strange push-pull rhythm that keeps you guessing. And the production? It's everywhere at once. You get funk, soul, jazz, glitchy electronic loops, and scratchy textures that never settle. It came from the Soul Sides Collective, also home to DJ Shadow and Chief Excel, so the beats stretch far beyond standard boom bap. Critics were stunned by how loose but purposeful it all felt. There's no big hooks, no radio polish, just dense rhymes, shifting tempos, and a total lack of predictability. Fans called it visionary. It didn't blow up at first, but it's earned underground legend status. The album is bold, strange, rhythmically jarring, and completely one of a kind. Weird? Yeah, and that's exactly what makes it essential. Duality. Captain Murphy's debut hit like a stoner rap seance with a VHS glitch filter. This wasn't just an album, it dropped as a 34-minute short film packed with creepy cult leader voiceovers, vintage cartoons, adult clips, and a fog of psychedelic edits. No artist name, just the mask, the voice, and the confusion. The mystery built fast. Fans guessed it was Tyler, maybe Earl, or some new Odd Future branch off. Turns out it was Flying Lotus the whole time, hiding behind a pitch-shifted voice and a cartoonish villain persona. The beats are wild. Flying Lotus tapped into his experimental crew, Madlib, Teebs, TNREHT, Sammy Am, and more, building a sound that switches up constantly. Nothing stays in place. Some songs are barely a minute long. Some don't feel like songs at all. They're samples of cult manuals, surreal skits, and rapid mood swings. The mixtape doesn't try to be polished. It's woozy, chaotic, funny, a little creepy, and surprisingly catchy. Even the artwork was different for each track. When the deluxe edition came out, Flying Lotus finally unmasked himself live in a cloak, like a weird magician at Low End Theory. Duality isn't just weird, it's a cult classic mixtape built on layers of secrecy, jokes, and fuzzy hallucination. Keep the Jeep riding. This album is basically a meme wrapped in a beat and dipped in hair gel. Turquoise Jeep Records? The crew behind it dropped this back in 2010, like a glitch in the rap matrix. It's the debut compilation from Flint, Flossie, Young Huma, Whatchiyama Call It, and their gloriously ridiculous squad of R&B Latherios and parody kings. They weren't trying to sound tough, they were trying to sound hilarious. Track titles like Lemmy Smang It, Fried or Fertilized, and Sex Syrup barely need context. It's comedy rap that knows exactly what it's doing. There's bravado, sure, but it's self-aware and dipped in auto-tune, layered over low-budget beats that hit just hard enough to dance awkwardly to. The delivery is exaggerated on purpose. You've got Flint Flossie giving motivational quotes like a gym coach who moonlights as a backup dancer, and Young Huma leaning into every note like he's trying to seduce the moon. What makes this album weird isn't the jokes, it's how committed they are to the bit. It launched a whole label built on character-driven chaos, and somehow it worked. Keep the Jeep Ridin' is a bizarre blend of viral performance art and rap music that refuses to take anything seriously. Hello Nasty. This album's basically a blender set to chaos mode. The Beastie Boys pulled every genre they could find: electro, dub, folk, disco, drum, and bass, Brazilian ballads, and jammed it all into 22 tracks. It came out in 1998 and still sounds like the inside of a malfunctioning radio tower. Mixmaster Mike joined the group for this one, and his turntablism changed everything. His scratching, sampling, and sonic mayhem made the whole thing feel like a mad science project with a beat. The production sounds improvised and electric, like the band camped out in a synth lab and refused to leave until every knob had been twisted. It's not just the sound that's weird, it's the structure. Some tracks barely settle into one vibe before another takes over. There's hidden audio in the CD version, surprise guests like Miho Hattori and Lee Scratch Perry, and plenty of bizarre lyrical turns. Despite the weirdness, it debuted at #1 and won 2 Grammy Awards. Critics loved it, fans obsessed over it, and the deluxe reissue cemented its legacy. Hello Nasty isn't just eccentric, it's a genre-destroying, beat-juggling, space funk experiment that exploded into mainstream success anyway. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.